Do you like supernatural, demonic horror movies? This one's in Indonesia, and it just played in the big theaters, and I'm going to talk about it, so let's get into it. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of Pabrik Gula, which is a movie called Sugar Factory, technically the translation, and it just played in theaters here. I'm a little behind on this review, by the way, but I had so much stuff piled up and I just couldn't get to it in time. But I just finished watching the movie. Big shout out to EST Studios and Distribution for allowing me to get a screener of this. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. They have a huge catalog of Indonesian and Asian horror films that I hope get more distribution out here in the United States. Some of these have played on like Netflix in different regions of the world, and I'm hoping to get your eyes on them so that these movies can get more exposure. Because, you know, I love to watch movies all over the world and find these new horror movies so that you guys know what to expect in the future. Now, this one may be in your theaters still, so you might want to check for that, but Pabrik Gula is actually about a seasonal labor job where this group of friends who have worked together over the years, they do sugar factory where they cut down the stalks of sugar and then process the sugar every season. It's out deep in the countryside, and they're hiring people from basically out in the main city to come work at this place and make some extra money. Soon, you find out that there's a reason why they've actually been hiring outside of the local town, because nobody wants to work at it. And that's because there was a tragedy that befell the sugar factory some time ago that cursed the land. And they've been trying to keep it at bay for a long time. But these workers soon find out that it goes from haunting to possessions to a full-on demonic village-scaled movie. Now, this is directed by Awi Suryadi, who did Death Whisperer and a couple of sequels in the KKN, which is pretty popular in Indonesia. They've been doing horror films for a very long time. And this film is actually an adaptation of a viral ARPG sort of thing, I think. It was like something, they did a thread on Twitter called Simple Man. It sort of inspired the making of this movie. But yeah, this is definitely a supernatural horror film. I think it's kind of leaning into trying to be a little bit more mainstream and try to appeal to a mainstream audience, because tonally in this film, I found it to be a little confusing in the first hour. This movie has like a very weird tonal thing with it in the first hour of the movie, and that's horror, comedy, and then like something else that's going on. It feels a little long. Like, this movie, I feel, could have been tightened up a little bit more and maybe trimmed it up to make it more tight and paced a little bit faster. But you're thrown in to the supernatural elements almost immediately. There's stuff that happens throughout this film pretty rapidly in the beginning, and they do a myriad of different types of scares. So you got like your jump scare, you've got your like something's in the background that's kind of scaring you. The soundtrack sort of kind of plays into that a lot, and sometimes I feel like it was a little too leading, but then they have something in the background and you're just like, oh, what is that? I found that this movie was entertaining. I did enjoy it. I thought the comedy parts were actually pretty funny. The practical effects in the supernatural department were actually pretty damn good. They do use a little bit of CGI to kind of brighten it up, maybe have some steam come off of something, or, you know, just this little thing. Sometimes there's some blood in it that they use some CGI in it. That's pretty typical for these types of movies. The makeup and the practical effects stuff looked pretty damn good and convincing. There was some pretty unique creature stuff in this movie, including a full-on demon with horns, pitch black. Interesting sound design that they do accompanying some of the creature work that's in here that I thought was a little creepy. But overall, this is more of a mainstream picture, and it's trying to go for a mainstream audience to kind of make it an entertaining film. So while it does kind of get muddled with its like dire horror and comedic beats, it doesn't necessarily mesh well together until the last hour of the film, which I thought ran way too long. This is an hour, like 2 hours and like 10-minute long film, including the credits. And I think it really could have been condensed down to a much more forgivable time frame. But, you know, it's hard to kill your darlings, as they call it, I guess. I think it could have been condensed a lot more, and this would have, you know, had a pacing. This is a movie that some people are going to like because it is mainstream, but then there's going to be people who want something more scary, and that may not fit. And this movie may not fit that scare, but it does have some goods here that I think is enjoyable, and it is an easy watch. It ended up winning me over by the last half of the movie because this movie goes from hauntings to possessions to full-on demonic village like that. It's pretty interesting what they do. I don't know that they necessarily pulled it off 100%, but I still think it's an entertaining film enough to watch and enjoy. And I think hopefully they give it like a Netflix release or have it on VOD out here somewhere so that you guys can see it soon. There is, of course, a lot of blood. There is some sexual situations, but it's mostly pretty tame for the most part. Ultimately, it's about the creature and like supernatural stuff that's going on in the movie. I could see some people might be a little upset by some of the jump scares in the very beginning, which, you know, I do feel that they overused just a little bit. I'm not personally offended when I see a jump scare in a movie, but it definitely has to be balanced with a lot of other scares. Like I said, the tone is so weird that you're not really sure if you're supposed to be scared or just enjoy yourself, because there's a lot of comedic moments in the film, but then by the end of the movie, it's like a completely different movie almost. So it is a little confused on what it wants to necessarily be, but I think ultimately, like I said, an entertaining film overall. It was a little bright in some areas. I thought like it was too lit in some areas, but for the most part, you would be safe in saying this is about a 6 or a 6.5 out of 10. Some people are way up there in the numbers, and some absolutely are upset about it, comparing it to KKN, which is the franchise that a lot of people enjoy out there. They say it's very similar to the story, and it is a little story-wise paint by numbers, but they have a couple of twists in the film that still kind of spiced up the story enough to give it something more. The acting in the movie wasn't amazing, but it's definitely sufficient enough to make it through to the end of the movie. While this movie isn't bringing anything extremely new to the table, I still think it's an enjoyable entertainment film, and I think where it's going to lose some of its audience is basically because of the tonal thing. Like, it doesn't know if it wants to be a comedy or this horror thing, and I think ultimately most people are kind of wanting a little bit more of a serious, scary take than a comedic, entertaining one. But that's just my opinion. I would just say about a 6 to 6.5 out of 10. Hopefully this will come to a theater near you, or, you know, a streaming service near you. Just look up Pabrik Gula. I don't know if they'll change the name, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's going to stay for right now. So hopefully we get to see that soon. Again, thank you, EST Studios and Distribution. They have a myriad of other films that are coming out, and I plan on doing some reviews of these movies and hopefully bringing awareness to you guys so that we can see a lot more of these films out here, because more horror to me is a bonus, and I love horror from all over the world, and I want to see it all. Are you a fan of Indonesian films? Do you like Indonesian horror? Are you used to the more dire version of Indonesian films? Because I've seen some pretty scary ones. Did you go to the theater to see this? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, whether you're in America or in Indonesia. I would love to hear from you. Got some friends here. I've been watching a lot of Indonesian films, so we have a lot of people from outside of the US that watch my reviews to check out stuff. So welcome. If this is your first time, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would love to hear what you think in the comment section down below. Do you agree with me? We're not always going to agree on everything, but I appreciate your opinion just as much as mine. So thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the void.